killed in gang activity because his brother got caught up in a gang. And so when they had their last drive-by, just the windows in their house were blown out and nobody got hurt, but he was threatened. So he looked at me almost as earnestly as my children look at me when they're in trouble, right? Judge Davis, what was I supposed to do? I took the gun to school to protect myself. And so you look at this kid and go, where are your parents? How have you been raised? How did you get to be? And you know how he got to be a 4-0, by the way, because I will tell you I sentenced him, and I have him on a sentencing path. He is going to go to the DOC for a little while because, again, that delicate balance of safety to the community and rehabilitation, I split his sentence. So I sent him to the DOC. He's going to come back out, and when he comes back out, I told him I was his chief probation officer. But I have him on a plan. I found out, digging into the information, that the reason why he was making a 4-0, first of all, he was just smart, and he was a hard worker. And he wanted to get out of the situation he was in. He did not have a mother and father. You know how I said his niece was shot? There was 3 families living in one house with the grandmother. Now the 3 families, though, were, niece, combined, they were kids. They were kids with no parents that were being raised by this grandmother. There were so many of them. One was shot and killed. One was a little niece that was shot in a drive-by. They lived and a lot of it was driven by his older brother, who was deceased because he was in a gang. So he's caught in this crossfire. Where's his parents? What happened to the days where, you don't get, where did he get the gun? I mean, there's so many questions surrounding this epidemic of a household where there's, approximately 11 kids in a household with a grandmother who is 87 years old and can barely get out of the house, but they have a roof over their head. He had a mentor, he had a tutor at school, though, because he was involved in sports and that kind of thing. So that kind of helped to get him through. But his life situation took him, again, it's not okay to carry around a gun without a license. You can't carry one to Wayne High School. And that's the message I need to send to the other gang members. Unfortunately, he's the one I had to send it through. But that is where I believe there is a true epidemic. It's a systemic problem with the breakdown of the family. It's a systemic problem of our youth in our community that are not getting the education they need. We can say that we give all our tax money to Fort Wayne Community Schools and they're doing a great job. The problem is there are so many young kids that are raising themselves. I travel down Main Street when I go to the courthouse every morning, and I see, it kind of is heartbroken to me, I see very, very young kids on the street with a backpack going to school, which is fine, I mean, they can walk to school. I see no parents, and I know sometimes when I usually am on Main Street about 7:30 a.m., okay? I have figured out that this middle school on Main Street, it's right there behind Paula's, they have to be at school about 7:45. Well, sometimes if I'm running a little bit late, because remember I start my hearings at 8:30, if it's about 8 o'clock-ish, and I see young kids still walking down the street, which means they're tardy, there's no parent, I assume, I could be wrong, that they're probably getting themselves up. I mean, I've just seen too many of them in my courtroom that grow up. They've probably gotten themselves ready for school, getting themselves off to school, and walking to school late. So there's this systemic epidemic that we have this family that's breaking down. I mean, I appreciated the comments that Judy said. And then we have kids and youth in our community that are getting lost. As Judy said, I am very, very involved. I've been the chair of the board of the United Way now for the past year, and our mission, one of our key missions of United Way, United Way really is, for basic needs and things like that, but our new key mission now is education, and educating all of our kids to ensure that we have those that need to be reading by 3rd grade. A lot of kids struggle just with reading, just with not being able to read. And so there's so many of them in our county, we can barely keep up. But if you ask, what can I do? I get to ask this. In fact, the mayor asked me this. Judge Davis, what are we going to do about the violence? I mean, we're watching the news, we're seeing it in the newspaper. What can we do? And, then they kind of like, what are you doing about the violence? Well, I'm doing my job. When they come before me, it's all over, it's too late, we're done, and they go to the DOC or they go to another alternative sentencing facility or whatever I think is wise at the time. Again, if they're young and it's a nonviolent crime, I try very hard to make sure I can put them on an ankle bracelet or put them under my thumb so I don't have to send them to the DOC to try to reverse and undo what they have grown up doing. And try to get them in line with thinking, this is not the way you live your life. You don't get to smoke methamphetamine all night long and then sleep all day and then go do it again the next night and then steal to get money for the methamphetamine as you cook it with all your friends who nobody has parents around. You know, I mean, that's a huge reversal that you have to deal with addiction. You have to deal with antisocial behavior from the bench. And our legislators have told our judges now that we are the ones responsible to try to come up with programs and figure out ways to reverse this. And we're working on that. But one of the things, too, that I feel very, very strongly about is when people say, what can we do about violence? I would say, when's the last time you volunteered your time to Real Men Read? Anybody can do that. You can call the United Way and go read and mentor a child. I mentored a child who was at Forest Park Elementary, and I always ask for the really, the ones that are the problem students, and they don't like to give the problem students to the mentors that go in there. And he was in 3rd grade, and they put him in a 2nd grade class, and he was bifurcating, he was off in a corner by himself. And I came to find out so much about this young kid. He was living with his stepmother, and he didn't know where his dad was. His baby brother was found dead in a crib. I mean, I didn't know what. And his 2 older teenage brothers were locked up in our juvenile ACJC facility. And you wonder why he's sitting off over in the corner, right? And a lot of it, the school system can't handle that, right? Because they can't tailor-make it to one kid. And I know we've got school board members here, and you know what a challenge that is. I've talked to Dr. Robinson, I don't know how many times. So it's people like that in this room to say, I'm going to move and engage into the community in ways that it might stretch me a little bit. This might be out of my comfort zone, but I guarantee you there are kids there. There are kids. You know, you've got big brothers, big sisters. You've got the Boys and Girls Club. You really have a lot of really good established, you don't need to start a new program. You've got established programs with credibility that need volunteers to move towards our youth. Youth for Christ, you know, is a big one. Need volunteers to move towards our youth that can help them and that can help grow them up. Because again, if you don't leave with one thing today, leave with this statement from me. When they get to an adult criminal courtroom, it's oftentimes too late. It's just too late. And the stories I hear of how they got there, they would make your skin crawl. Because you just don't think that someone would grow up like that. Now let me tell you, since I'm here, some of the things that we are doing in Allen County, Judge Gall, Judge Serbic, and myself in the criminal division, we all have what we call problem-solving court. So Judge Gall runs the drug court, and the drug court program is for those individuals who fall into felony drugs, and instead of having a felony on their record, she puts them into a deep-seated program that she presides over. And if they make it through the drug court program and are sober after a year and a half, she dismisses their felony case. So that's a great program. I run Hope Probation. Hope Probation is a program I started when I came to the bench, as I had promised. And that is a probationary program that's my title. I'm their chief probation officer. And so they're usually nonviolent drug offenders, post-conviction, so they've already had a conviction. They have to call into probation every day. If they don't call in every single day, I've got 3 warrants officers who go right up, pick them up, and bring them and put them into custody. It's absolutely no tolerance. So when their color is called, if anybody's familiar with like the AA or some of the Alcohol Anonymous programs where you have to call in a hotline and go down and take a drug screen, I'm doing that in the court system now. Trying to divert some of the non-violent young offenders away from prison. But under my thumb, and candidly, I had a guy, this was the best part of my day, because I don't see a lot of, I see a lot of the underbelly, I guess, of in our society. But I had a guy come in today, he had a tie on, and he was a little disheveled before he went to Salvation Army, and he said, Judge Davis, I've been clean and sober for 8 months. I have a job. Okay, this guy I tossed in jail like 3 times on hope probation because he just couldn't get his act together. And I said, this is it, you know. And to see the services we can provide him now through the court system, and he was so proud of himself. But again, that is such hard work once they're an adult. But we're committed to it. I mean, I can tell you that the criminal division in Allen County is committed to sending the offenders away that are hurting our community and trying to rehabilitate those that truly are not hurting anybody but themselves, and they're going down the wrong path. And I think we do a very good job being wise in those that we really work hard to utilize services here in Allen County to rehabilitate. And then Judge Surbeck runs a problem-solving court where he brings them out of prison a little bit early, puts them on an ankle bracelet, and he tries to then instill in them, it's called reentry court, the pro-social lifestyle so they don't go back into prison, okay? I always use this as an example when I talk about reentry court because if you've seen, okay, everybody's seen Schindler's List, right? Right? Everybody's seen Schindler's List. And you know, at the end, when Morgan Freeman gets out and you know, you see all these inmates getting out and they don't know how to live their life. That could not be more true. That's not Hollywood. That's true. And so we've got good programs that when they do come out of prison and they've done their time, we bring them out a little bit early, put an ankle bracelet on them so we can GPS monitor them. And again, when they come to court, they have to have a tie on, they have to be job searching, and they have to be, you know, staying clean and sober. We do home visits in my court if you're on probation out of my court and a lower grade felony. All my probation officers that are associated with Hope Probation are certified to carry a gun and go out and do home visits. So they never know when I'm going to show up. One offender told me, Judge Davis, you're like Big Brother. And I go, that's right. And, you know, so it's a way of working with some of these adult offenders so they don't come back into the courtroom. So I don't want to be one of the busiest judges in the state. I don't want to be. I'm committed to doing the work that needs to be done. But if there's anything that I can really leave you with tonight, it's 2 things. One, and I'm going to repeat myself, oftentimes when they come before me in adult court, it's too late. And 2, I am a firm believer to stop the violence in our community, to stop the crime that we see hurting our downtown as our mayor is trying to, you know, say what you want, but the downtown development, everybody's trying to develop our downtown and bring businesses in and do really great things for our community. That's really hard to do when we've got gangs, and now we have a gang task force. So how do we prevent all that? Well, I have to tell you, I work very closely with both the Allen County and the Fort Wayne Police Departments. They are amazing police officers. And once they get to a crime scene, to a homicide scene, to a shooting, it's too late. Because hopefully they'll get those individuals and they'll come before me. It's too late. We need to back it up. And we need to really focus on educating and mentoring our youth that are getting lost. And I think you would be floored with the volume of young kids being born in our community to parents that either don't have the capacity to take care of them, they're working too much, that they don't have their no one taught them, you know, what it means to be a mother, what it means to be a father. We've got kids having kids. We see that a lot down at the Youth for Christ, you know, and I know we talk about this, and we can sit and talk about poverty, and we can talk, that's true. Impoverished families struggle more. Their kids struggle in school more. You can't go to school if you're hungry. We've heard all these things. But I will tell you, it's a systemic problem in America. It's a systemic problem in our community. That if we don't fix those households, if we don't fix these young children and teach them what it does mean to be a mother, I stand up here proudly and tell you, I don't speak as much anymore because if I don't take care of my own 3 kids and grow them up to do what I think that they should do, then, you know, I can't be a good judge when I go down to the courthouse. So that's really what I came to say.
Hunger